Hello everybody, and welcome back to another video for all today. So yeah, Pokemon ZA is out, and depending on who you ask, it ranges from kinda mid to a crime against Pokemon. The game feels like it needed 6 more months in the oven, but instead Game Freak microwaved it for 30 seconds and said, yeah, that's probably fine. But here's the wild part. The soundtrack goes absolutely stupid for no reason. It's like the music team thought they were making a completely different game, one with emotional depth, polished storytelling, and animations that don't look like they're running on a calculator. Popular Zelda YouTuber Curtomatic made a video breaking down everything, the good, the bad, about Pokemon ZA. But he only touched on the music briefly, so today we're diving way deeper into one of the best parts of ZA that didn't let us down. So, let's talk about why the music is so good, it almost makes you forgive the game. Almost. Quick disclaimer, I haven't actually played Pokemon ZA. I know, shocking. I did what a responsible adult would do. I watched a full non-commentary playthrough at 2 a.m. and took notes like I was studying for a Pokemon midterm. So yeah, if I'm not referencing super specific moments, that's why. Also, I want everyone to know this video is entirely Curtomatic's fault. I watched his review expecting a full breakdown of the music, and instead he just said, yeah, it's good, and moved on like he had a bus to catch. So now I have to do the deep dive he didn't, and on basically zero notice. So you're welcome, and anyway, let's get into it, shall we? Pokemon ZA's soundtrack very clearly carries the fingerprints of the modern Pokemon sound team. The same people were responsible for Pokemon X and Y and Pokemon Sun and Moon, and other iconic tracks from the last decade. They're known for clean emotional melodies, rich synth textures, and a modern meets nostalgic tone that defines Kalos as a region. Even if ZA feels like a side project that broke free too early, the music is the one place you can tell experienced hands were at work. Craftsmanship is way higher than the rest of the game suggests. Internally, the biggest influence on the soundtrack is a shift to Neon Lumious, a more futuristic version of Kalos. This gave the composer a chance to evolve the original X and Y soundtrack without repeating it. The music echoes Kalos' identity, the warmth, the elegance, the emotional sweep, but wraps those ideas in a more technological forward, stylish soundscape. It's not about a specific district or area, it's more like a spirit of Kalos being reflamed through a modern lens. The soundtrack respects the original world while acknowledging that time has passed. Outside of Pokemon, the music pulls heavily from French electronic culture. Not just the obvious Daft Punk style influences, but the broader atmosphere of the European electronic production. There's a blend of modern electronic music, cinematic trailers, scoring, soft urban ambiance, and a clear contemporary synth design. This creates a kind of musical identity that feels both worldly and distinct, without tying itself to any specific location in the game. It's the emotional tone that matters at the end of it. Now that we have some background, let's get into the heart of the video on what makes Pokemon ZA's music so good. When you step back and look at Pokemon ZA as a whole, the strangest thing about the game is how the soundtrack feels like it came from a version of ZA that actually lived up to the hype. Even though the game struggles in pacing, story, presentation, and even basic polish, the music feels like it came from a team working at full power. Not just filling in the background noise, but trying to elevate the entire experience. And the more you listen, the more you realize the soundtrack isn't just good for a Pokemon game, it's genuinely inspiring. There's this overarching confidence to the composition. Instead of relying on typical Pokemon formula, like cheerful town themes, playful routes, heroic battle motifs, ZA's score constantly pushes into emotional, richer, more modern territory. These melodies flow with a kind of clarity and boldness that honestly makes you forget what's happening on screen. Even in scenes where the story falls flat, the music steps in and paints a more compelling version of what should be happening. It fills in the personality the game lacks. What stands out most is how dynamic and expressive the tracks are. They feel alive, like composers wanted every piece to communicate something directly to the player. When the game wants to feel mysterious, the music gives you subtle electronic pulses that build tensions without overdoing it. When the game wants to feel emotional, the score shifts into warm, swelling harmonies that feel so much more heartfelt than anything the writers manages to express. And when the game wants to feel hype, the soundtrack absolutely takes off. You hear exactly that in Jathine's battle theme, which is honestly one of the best pieces Pokemon has produced in years. The track hits immediately with this sharp rhythmic energy, almost like a blend of French electro and modern anime battle scoring. The bassline has the punchy forward driving momentum, but it never turns into noise. It's precise, stylish, and full of personality. Then the melody on top has the elegant swagger to it, reflecting Jacine's whole vibe without ever needing the character to speak. So with that, give it a listen. What's crazy is how emotionally layered it is. You can hear tension, confidence, and urgency all at once. It's not just a battle theme, it sounds like you're fighting someone who actually matters, someone who has weight in the world. Even people who don't like Pokemon ZA have been looping that track because it feels like the kind of battle music you expect from a major climax in a much better game. It shows how much potential the game had, and how much the audio team was working at a higher tier. And Jacine's theme isn't the only one that hits like this across the whole soundtrack. You feel this consistency. Tracks build and evolve instead of looping lazily. The electronic elements blend with orchestra textures in ways that feel intentional, modern rather than experimental. And the emotional beats feel authentic, not manufactured. There's a maturity to the sound that makes Kalos feel reimagined even when the actual game design doesn't deliver on that promise. Even the regular battle themes show a surprising amount of depth. Instead of relying on loud brass and rapid synth runs, ZA's combat music often leans into groove, texture, and momentum. It feels like the composers wanted you to feel inside the rhythm of the fight instead of just reacting to the noise. There's a movement there, progression and tension woven into those patterns. The kind of attention to detail you don't usually get from a game that stumbles everywhere else. The soundtrack also does something rare for Pokemon. Trusts the player's ear. It doesn't over explain emotions with excessive crescendos or cliche heroic flourishes. Instead, it builds mood with careful layering, subtle melodies, and production techniques that borrow from modern electronic and cinematic music. It's tasteful, it's deliberate, It's the work of composers who knew exactly what the vibe they wanted and executed it with confidence. And this is why the music stands out so much now that the game is out. It proves that the creative spark was there. ZA could have been this sweeping, stylish, futuristic identity, and the soundtrack delivers that imagined version of the game perfectly. Even if the visuals and writing didn't follow through, the score gives you a glimpse of the ideal Kalos return. It's almost bittersweet, because the music lets you imagine how great ZA could have been. In the end, the soundtrack becomes the emotional backbone of a game that doesn't really have one otherwise. It adds weights to moments that aren't written with weight. It creates excitement when the gameplay doesn't. It brings warmth where the characters don't, and it creates the nostalgic futuristic identity that the story struggles to express. The music is the version of Pokemon ZA we all wanted to play. Polished, expressive, ambitious one. And that's why it resonates so strongly even among people who don't like the game. So even though Pokemon ZA stumbles in almost every area, its soundtrack is genuinely a highlight. Polished, expressive, confident, and full of life. Curtomatic talked about the game's overall strengths and weakness in his full breakdown. Like I said, check out that video. But the music deserved its own spotlight, and that's what this video tried to create. So let me know in the comments down below, what do you think about Pokemon ZA's soundtrack and or just Pokemon ZA in a whole? And with that, I thank you guys so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next one. Goodbye.